Revealing, yeah. 7,000 jobs. And these are workers who are receiving half pay, at least that the ICU has record of. 7,000 workers receiving cuts in their salaries. 1,000 lost jobs. And then the casual workers, Bubruja, we can't even account for them. Now, Mr. Kote, as head of that union, when did you start feeling the heat? When this whole inception of Corona was being recorded? Mr. Kote?
Directly. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Yeah. You know, if you look at the nature of our union, we cover a large, spectrum of the entire economy. So the hospitality center, which is one of our major flagships, it happened that the moment the planes were not coming, our hotels became a graveyard. And again, we sought to see what really can be done. Then we noticed that no work, no pay syndrome started coming. And as I talk to you now, a lot of things have been frozen for them. We've spoken to the hospitality sector minister, where now some levies that they pay have all been frozen out. We have also ensured that these workers were not just thrown out, but some engagement have continued to see maybe the fortunes can change in no time. But as it stands now, our budget have been affected, our membership have been affected, and it's like everybody in the labor sector who runs around this group have equally also been hit up. Now, looking ahead, if we take the banking and the financial sector, activities there have also slowed down. So obviously, there also, if this October waiting time that we have is anything to go by, then another hit is going to come on us again. You agree with me also that the agri sector, where we also find ourselves, so far we have been blessed. No corona has hit there, so they have been working, and therefore life look a bit normal there. But the spikes we are seeing from the corona, if some should also hit along those sides, and I can tell you the negative effect is going to become very strong. But however, when we take our pharmaceutical sector, where ICU is very predominant, they have taken advantage. They have now done some innovation. They've come up with these hand sanitizers. They've come up with these nose masks, things that they were not doing before. But what is the market that this thing can provide to give them the volumes that can actually keep them running? All these ones are issues that is facing us as labor. But I'm sure we are not alone. It is the entire world, it's the entire economy that is actually facing it. So we will still continue to engage with employers to see the best alternative to be applied in the circumstances that we find ourselves.
Dr. Lord-Mensah, the projections on job cuts would also mean that we need to revise.
We are
not... Dr. Lord-Mensah.
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. If you look at the projections that Mr. Solomon Kote talks about, it would also mean that we need to revise our projections on domestic expenditure, because that will ultimately be affected.
Oh yes, I mean, at this time it's about revision. I mean, you realize that whatever is being transpired on the job market will definitely feed into government revenue. And so if you don't have the necessary revenue, then obviously you should be able to cut down your expenditure. And then also at the individual, households, I mean, we should understand that we don't live in we don't have the normalcy that we had earlier. And so if you live on maybe 3 milks a day, it's about time you revise your home consumption. So obviously we should understand it's a new dimension altogether. If you have lost your job, you should be tempted to reduce some of your expenditure that you used to have when you were on the job market. We don't have that vibrant, kind of economy where people can insure against, these unforeseen circumstances on their incomes. In other parts of the world, when we have situations like this, that individuals have lost, streams of their income, the insurance takes over if they have insurance for that purpose. But we don't have. So possibly, Mr. Kote, I think you might look in that direction.
Okay.
Looking at the possibility of insuring, people's income in case of unforeseen circumstances, like this, so that the insurance, takes over, when it comes to emergencies like this. So for me, I think we need to rebuild the market. And that's why I said earlier that we live in times that is providing a lot of lessons. And going forward, this would deepen our way of thinking in how we structure the economy, even to the extent of the insurance market and the packages that, goes with it. Now we have, income insurance, which I think some of the insurance companies can
start doing. Okay. All right. Okay.
Like this.
I didn't know that you had insured your income, but I know one person who hasn't, Joseph Opoku Gakpo, he hasn't. But he is speaking to Kwame Agboja. He's a member of parliament for Daklu, but also a ranking on Parliament's Committee on Roads and Transport. We go live there just to get this great feed.
So, Roland, welcome to Parliament. The MPs are getting in very slowly, one after the other, even as the House prepares to host the Minister for Finance, Kofi Atta. Sitting is supposed to begin at 10 a.m. I can tell you for certain that there's been a lot of rearrangements when it comes to the seating here in Parliament. A lot of the seats have been taken out so that then there is adequate spacing around. There's a lot of restriction as well on who is getting in. And you recall, as the Speaker rightly made the point yesterday, for the MPs who will be present, it's on first-come, first-served basis. If you get in on time, then you'd be able to grab a seat in there. Otherwise, you either have to watch on TV or probably sit in the public gallery. Well, one individual who is right here on time, as he makes the effort to be able to get a space in the chamber, is, as you indicated, Kwame Agboja, who is the ranking member on Parliament Road and Transport Committee. And he's also the MP for Daklu. We would have a conversation about the declaration of this year being Year of Roads and his expectations with regards to that, particularly as Kofi Atta delivers the mid-year budget review in the next hour or so. But broadly, what's your general expectation of how things will pan out, even as the Finance Minister speaks to Parliament today?
Good morning, Joseph, and good morning to your colleagues at the studio and your viewers across the world. First of all, yes, it's constitutional that the Finance Minister comes to the House to provide details of expenditure so far, halfway down the year. So he's not doing anything different from that. What's my expectation? Well, he's got a style. He'll probably come and read few Bible quotations, which he doesn't even believe in himself, talk about his birth, if possible, which he does all the time, but fail to address the issues that matter to the people of this country. That, for instance, the country, Parliament gave the minister 1.2 billion Ghana cedi out of the stabilization fund. IMF World Bank gave them $1 billion, working out to be about 6 billion Ghana cedi. We are told the Bank of Ghana said they will bail them out for another 10 billion. In effect, this finance minister would have 17.2 billion Ghana cedi in the shortest possible time, in less than 2 months. No government has ever had that. We are not even talking about the borrowings that he's done prior to that and the ones we are going to do, including today and others.
But these are not normal times, right? So those kinds of borrowings are virtually justified to a very large extent, aren't they?
Not at all. When you are given 17.2 billion Ghana cedi, and what did you do with it? And first of all, you remember when they came to the House, they failed to tell us what they were going to do with it. When we asked them, they only talked about they were going to pay some electricity bill and water bill and also feed people who were in the lockdown area for 3 months. We know the lockdown wasn't even 1 month. 2, we know that, for instance, they said they were going to pay some frontline workers. As of 2 weeks ago, when the Deputy Finance Minister was in the House, and I asked a simple question: what was your definition of a frontline worker? As of the time you made a promise, he couldn't. The Speaker ruled me out, and we are told that this week they are paying part of that money. But these monies were set aside.
Well, the Deputy Health Minister has defined that 6,000 of them have been identified. People who are working directly on tested and positively confirmed COVID-19 cases, and they've paid that of the month of April already. Dr. Kofi told us that just about 3 days ago here in Parliament.
Yes. I'm saying that when the finance minister was here to answer a question about that, he couldn't answer the question. Dr. Okoboy only provided some answers last week, and I'm saying that they said they were going to pay right from, look, there's some nurses and doctors who have passed on who will never know this money has been paid. Is that not the case? Because the time they said they will pay this money, they didn't pay. That is the point I'm trying to make. So if you take the commitment they made in terms of what they told Ghana they were going to use the 17.2 billion for, it's a fraction of what they actually are using the money for. And I'm saying that when you put all this, if you aggregate all these things, it is difficult to comprehend how, for instance, I am sure everybody in this country, including Joy Multimedia, the way this finance minister has managed the economy affects you. We've heard of redundancies even in the media. If this economy was buoyant enough, multimedia should be buoyant. The buoyancy of the economy is seen in the number of people gainfully employed. Today, there are drivers struggling. Why? Because Dr. Baumia and the government decided to increase the taxes on petroleum product. Let me explain. Not because the price of petroleum product have increased on the world market, but because he wanted to take the monies he's claiming to give us and for water and electricity, he wanted to take it from the back door. He increased it. Two, because of the bad nature of which he's been managing the economy, which even happened before COVID, the city is taking a battering from the international trading currencies. Because of that, a driver needed to pay more to get spare parts today. Because of COVID, a driver can't take a full load in his vehicle because of social distancing. I can't blame government for that. We all need to do that to feel safe. But there are three major attacks on a driver today that makes his business not worth enough, doing. But guess what? Instead of supporting the drivers with part of the 17.2 billion, you were in this house when we decided to give part of, for instance, monies to support people who shouldn't be supported. I give you an example. Today they are scheming to sell Ghana Airport, Terminal 3 and others. I'm happy that your media, some of your colleagues have been doing very detailed work, and I commend you for that. Why do I say this? Terminal 3 was built at $250 million. Part of that money that we used to build it came from the, infrastructure fund. Yeah. There was money in that fund to continue paying them. But guess what? This house decided to give that money to the relative of the president to build Pullman Hotel.
Which you think is out of place. So just to get back to the very basics, you expect the finance minister to address basic bread and butter issues in terms of what is being done for the ordinary driver, for the ordinary taxi driver, for the everyday person, for the healthcare worker, and then for the media. Yes. We know that 600 million Ghana cedis went into a stimulus package, which was aimed at helping small-scale businesses and all. So your expectation is that what? An additional package possibly be announced today, targeting those who have been benefited from
600 million. Do you know how many, can you point to 1, 2, 3 businesses that have benefited from that so far? Do you have any evidence of those who have benefited from the 600 million?
Do you know them?
Yes, some of them we are told in Madaklu. We are told that some people are being given 2,000 cedis as a business to support their businesses. We would find out whether those people actually own businesses. We will give any support to business. In this house, the minority leader, when they came for that, the 600 million, we asked for details for who will benefit. If we were to be given the opportunity as a minority spokesperson on road and transport, I would have demanded that a driver who is an essential service provider is cushioned out of that. The trotro driver from Adenta to Tema Station, who says it's not an essential service provider? If those trotro taxis stop working today, perhaps there are people in Parliament who wouldn't come to work. So we would have demanded those happen. But guess what? They decided to lump and skew those resources to other people which will go into details. I'm saying that the summary is that the finance minister will come and do the usual thing, do the praise singing, be pious, and never address the issue of when the driver will get some relief, when the people who have lost their job as a result of the bungled and targeted collapse of the banks, where today Dr. Ndum, an indigenous banker, Dr. Dufour, who built banks in this country, make profit, who can actually employ people, are watching you and I on telly instead of being in their banks, creating jobs and other things, simply because the president and his family want to create a system where the state is captured in every sector for them alone. Today, I am sure maybe enterprise will be the only only insurance company that will make real profit. What about other insurance company? Those are the things that Ghanaians want answers to. And he's never going to be able to talk about those things in the chamber.
Let's round up on the bit about year of roads. We are halfway through that year of roads. You are ranking on the Roads and Transport Committee. Has anything changed over the last 6-7 months? Any major expectations, even as the minister presents the figures on those and what the plans are for the year of roads going into the end of the year?
First of all, thank you very much. I can tell you for a fact that Ghana's roads have never been this bad in generations. Why? Because the government made a policy when they came into government in 2017 to suspend almost all road projects, claiming they were doing auditing. Out of that, Cocoa Road particularly suffered. The president was in this house during one of his State of the Nation address and boasted that he supported that move. I am urging multimedia, go and fish out the report of the audit on the Cocoa roads. They told you some of the roads didn't exist, some of the contracts were inflated. Multimedia is a powerful organization. Why are you not able to get us the report of the Cocoa Road audit report? Because the government lied. And I'm telling you, be bold. Go to the Cocoa Road Board Chief Executive and demand that. Secondly, the government failed to put in the necessary investment into the road sector right from 2017. They only began to show interest in that from 2018, end of 2018. And indeed, they've come to this house to take some loans and to do like asphaltic overlay in Kumasi and Accra. But, Joseph, under the NDC, asphaltic overlay was happening in every regional capital, even some district capital. So it is very mediocre to tout asphaltic overlay in Accra and Kumasi alone as an achievement. I hear them talk about President Akufo-Addo is building 5 interchanges. Which one? The only interchange that can be attributed to President Akufo-Addo is the Tamale interchange. In fact, the site of that project is a breeding ground for rodents as we speak. There's nothing going on. Is Akufo-Addo taking credit for Tema interchange? No. Obechebi? No. How do you call it? Ofanko? None of those projects. So Akufo-Addo has totally failed. Even this week, we may approve some loans for road projects in the country. But we are talking about 4 years. Why do you have to wait until this time to be able to do road? So in terms of road, they have totally failed, and government would have to change for the NDC to be able to do real delivery on road projects, as we've seen prior to 2017.
And for you, the last 6 months of the year will make absolutely no difference
in fact,
terms
some
of
of
how
the loans, as you know, you are experienced in this house. Some of the loans we have approved, we are approving or we have approved, we will never see a contractor on site before the election. Why? Because it takes time after even Parliament approve for their processes before even the contractor turns up on site. So you will see them do a heightened sword cutting, but you will never see anything. But who said you should have done it now? You should have done it right from 2017, allow the Cocoa Road to be completed, then you can add on to them. If you are now completing Cocoa Road that was started in 2015, you have actually failed the people of this country.
Many thanks for joining us. Looks like the heat is on already, even as we await the presence of the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, in the House. That's Kwame Agboja, who is the ranking member on Parliament Road and Transport Committee, with those thoughts ahead of the delivery of the mid-year budget review statement by the Minister of Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta. A number of issues we expect he'll be addressing will include the issues having to do with the debt stock, for example, and what government is doing in order to keep it under very good levels, even going into the 2020 elections, and even in the light of the fact that there's been a lot of borrowing to help deal with challenges having to do with COVID-19. And so in the next 40 minutes or so, we're expecting Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta in the House, even as the proceedings begin, for him to present the mid-year budget review. Roland.
I'm told that the sitting has been regulated. You reported that apparently you will be sitting outside. You'll be watching from your TV set or your phone. What is the outline?
Well, a number of the media folks are being allowed in. It's been capped at 25. So some of we, the media folks, will be in the press gallery to monitor proceedings and get things out there. It's not just them. When it comes to the MPs who will be present in the chamber itself, the arrangement is said that there will be a space, more like an empty space that should have been a seat in between everywhere that you would have a member of parliament sitting. So the chamber that's supposed to take up to 275 people may well be taking less than half of that number, less than 135. So that's actually going to be the situation as well. And what the Speaker of Parliament is encouraging is that for the MPs who may end up arriving a little late and wouldn't get space in the chamber, they would have to get into the offices and watch proceedings right from their offices as part of measures to adequately enforce social distancing to avoid the spread of COVID-19. And there's been heavy enforcement of those provisions, even as people get into the chamber. Members of the public are not being allowed in. You would recall that usually when a mid-year budget review, a budget statement is being done, members of the diplomatic corps would usually show up here in Parliament, as well as people from various civil society organizations and farmer groups and business organizations and all. That is not happening today as part of efforts to limit the numbers. And the public gallery is being reserved, possibly for MPs who may not find space right on the floor of the House itself. And so that is really being enforced very vigorously, and we're waiting to see how things will unfold, even as the finance minister prepares to come to the House. He hasn't arrived in the House yet from my checks. We're expecting that proceedings will begin from 10 o'clock, although sometimes things do delay a bit. And there are other issues on the agenda of the House, including a number of loan agreements that the finance minister will be dealing with even before he begins the presentation of the mid-year budget review. And so this is expected to span for like an hour and a half or maybe a little longer. When that is done, the House will adjourn sitting to tomorrow. And then from next week, Monday, we're expecting that the House will engage in a full-blown debate on the issues that Mr. Kenofriata will lay out today, picking on it sector by sector. So they'll begin with the finance sector, get onto the road sector, get onto the agricultural sector, and all the other sectors in a debate that will span for like a week right on the floor, which will unfold sometime next week, after which Parliament will then give approval for whatever review of estimates that the finance minister will bring, and possibly any other expected revenue expenditure approval that he will lay before the House, even as he delivers the mid-year budget review statement.
Mr. Agboja said you're one well-informed, experienced member of the press corps. So it means you are part of the 25, aren't you, Joseph?
Yes, I happen to be one of the 25 who will be right there in the monitoring proceedings, right, even as things unfold. And so the entire Joy Business team is here as well, who would also be helping bring us the various updates.
That's Jog. He's Joseph Opoku Gakpo. He is one of the privileged few among the media elites covering today's media budget in Parliament. But a last question.
That's not how the speaker said. It's not about people within the media elites being allowed into the space. It's just the selection of a handful. So it's just by divine selection that we'll find ourselves in there.
Yeah, the quintessential Joseph Opoku Gakpo. Which church do you attend? Because the way I say divine, because if somebody is some practicing traditional person, then what do? That's the supreme being, the divine supreme being. Okay, Joseph, we'll come back to you, okay? That's the most important thing we want to hear. And you can get all these updates. We have Facebook, Joy News on TV. We have a Twitter handle, Joy News on TV. We're streaming this live, Joy News TV on YouTube. MyJoyOnline.com is available. Get all the updates. Watch this as well. And the discussions are ongoing.